Published 0544 EDT, the 20th of October 2017. Updated 0935 EDT, the 20th of October 2017. It was a camp like no other, for a fight like no other. Conor McGregor, the biggest star in the UFC, was making his professional boxing debut when he met the finest fighter of his generation, Floyd Mayweather. After an explosive build-up in 10 rounds in Las Vegas in August, McGregor succumbed to a stoppage defeat. But he had taken Mayweather into deeper waters than many expected and pocketed around £58.2 million. The money-spinning showdown was the culmination of years of brutal work in and outside the ring. Alongside the Irishman every step of the way was Artem Lobov, a Russian MMA fighter who has trained with McGregor since the early days. Sportsmail gained an insight into Conor McGregor's camp for his fight with Floyd Mayweather. The Irish UFC star was stopped in 10 rounds by the former 5-weight world champion MMA fighter Artem Lobov has been training alongside the notorious since he was an amateur. In an exclusive interview with Sportsmail, the Russian Hammer has lifted the lid on life inside the McGregor camp as the Irishman attempted to make the jump from the octagon to the ring and shock the sporting world. Unlike his normal regimes, which also involve wrestling and grappling, this was all hands. Over a few short months, the MMA star attempted to hone skills Mayweather has mastered for decades. To minimize the teething problems in his switch from the octagon to the squared circle, McGregor spent hours hitting bags, pads and sparring partners. Coach John Kavanagh estimated that by fight night, McGregor would have done 44 fights in the gym, more than 400 rounds in the ring. The Irishman employed experienced referee Joe Cortez to enforce the Queensberry rules, and Paddy Malignaggi to give him a taste of what he could expect from a seasoned professional boxer. Ahead of the fight, McGregor underwent a grueling training camp in the heat of Las Vegas. The Irishman had to make the transition from mixed martial arts to boxing for the contest. Lobov watches on second left as McGregor spars former twelterweight king Paddy Malignaggi, but the former twelterweight world champion left the camp in fury after a picture of their spar, which purported to show the Magic Man being knocked down, was leaked online. Almost 3 months on, the row rumbles on. Malignaggi confirmed earlier this week that talks are underway over a potential fight between the pair. Lobov was present for his sparring sessions with McGregor, and what he witnessed in Las Vegas has left him with little appetite for more. Paulie just got put back in his place and he got slapped around, Lobov reveals. That is one of the reasons I don't want to see that fight. I've already seen it. I've seen Paulie get his whooped twice, so why the F would I want to see it again? It doesn't excite me. The only way that fight could happen is if it was a feel-good fight for McGregor, just to shove the fists down his throat one more time. Hopefully that would keep him quiet for 5 minutes, but I really doubt that. The Russian Hammer was part of the team responsible for getting McGregor in peak condition. Lobov left observes the Notorious being put through his paces ahead of the Las Vegas clash in the months leading up to the T-Mobile Arena showdown. McGregor trained 5.5 or 6 days a week, mostly at the state-of-the-art UFC Performance Institute in Vegas. He took in 4,000 calories across 9 meals every day, with nutritionist George Lockhart responsible for going food shopping 3 times each day just to make sure each meal was as fresh as possible. Session normally began with skills work, in the ring, on the pads, or on the bags, and finished with conditioning training as part of the Conor McGregor fast regime. Using a combination of bikes, punch bags, rowing machines and treadmills, the Irishman endured a grueling routine to reach peak physical condition, and while both fighters endured tough training camps behind closed doors, their bluster and bravado in front of the cameras remained equally relentless. From their groundbreaking 4-day, 4-city publicity tour right up to fight night, the two brash boxers traded trash talk and sinister threats. So fierce were McGregor's verbal assaults that Mayweather often found himself in the unusual position of fighting to be heard. But what is the Irish UFC star, who hails from an unremarkable suburb of Dublin, really like? Is his unwavering self-confidence authentic or merely part of a carefully crafted public image? Owen Roddy Wright and John Kavanagh left are the Irish UFC star's highly regarded coaches. Alongside their training, Mayweather and McGregor engaged in a fierce promotional tour. He's always the same. There is no act, Lobov claims. Think about it, how the F could you put on an act with cameras pointing on you 247, 365 days a year? If you were that good an actor, he'd have all the F Oscars. That's just him. That's just Conor. What you see is what you get. And how was he in camp? He was grinding like a motherfucker, like he always does, despite working himself into fantastic shape in the weeks leading up to fight night. The UFC superstar fatigued badly in the middle rounds as Mayweather weathered his early attacks and took control. Lobov accepts they made mistakes, and McGregor could have adjusted his sparring to include heavier opponents in later rounds who would go forward, absorb the shots and put pressure on him. But the Russian credits Mayweather, too, claiming he earned a new level of respect the American after he showed skill and composure to change game plan and secure the stoppage. The Irishman was in crazy good shape for his boxing debut thanks to his grueling training, but McGregor fatigued badly in the middle rounds and Mayweather punished him in Vegas. But Lobov's belief that McGregor could do what many felt was impossible has never wavered. He was in crazy good shape. He was doing 12 rounds of sparring and not even out of breath. He didn't slow down at all over 12 rounds. So physically he was definitely ready for the fight, he says. There was no doubt in our mind that it could be done, and there is still no doubt in my mind that it can be done. Minor adjustments are needed, I would agree, but if this was to happen a second time I feel he would get the knockout and I would love to see that fight again. After Mayweather's retirement, a rematch appears unlikely and, for now, McGregor's fighting future remains up in the air. For Lobov, however, there is another, immediate task at hand. The Russian fights Andre Fili in his return to the UFC on Saturday. It was a fight the Russian turned down earlier this year to help an old friend. The Irish UFC star has trained alongside Lobov since the Russian's first amateur bout in MMA. Lobov makes his return to the UFC on Saturday night when he takes on Andre Fili in Gdansk. The pair have trained alongside each other since the Russian's first MMA fight, when he fought on the undercard of one of McGregor's early bouts. Theirs is a strong bond that has helped the Irishman reach the top of the sport, and one that has given a boost to the Russian hammer, too. There were not many fighters who were able to take the punishment Conor was able to produce. Often he would ask who else wants to spar, and every day there were less and less hands shown until one day there was just me ready to spar every day. And that's how our friendship formed, he reveals. McGregor has been a huge influence, of course. Number one, my skills have improved so quickly thanks to Conor and working with him on a daily basis. And of course my career in general. The opportunities that I have had as a result of being part of Conor McGregor's camp are huge, including the fact that I'm in the UFC right now. Watch UFC Fight Night Cowboy vs. to live on BT Sport from 8 p.m. British Summer Time on Saturday, October 21st, or catch the prelims exclusively on UFC Fight Pass from 4:30 p.m. British Summer Time.